on the Sankhya TV website. Sankhya Television, your number one choice for cultural, inspirational and spiritual programming. Springland Gardens, quality homes for a lifetime of happiness. Situated 15 minutes from Gulf City Mall at Toby Trace in Avocat, our homes start at $1.8 million, with duplexes from $1.75 million. Our homes are outfitted with a fully equipped kitchen, 3 ensuite bedrooms with walk-in closets, powder room, sophisticated lighting, air conditioning, security cameras, burglar proofing, electronic gate garages, study, and utility room. Residents have access to a recreational pond, play park, and an artificial turf football field. Call 792-1155 to arrange your visit today. Visit our Facebook page, Springland Gardens, for more information.
जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय भयहारिणी भवतारिणी भवभामिनी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय भयहारिणी भवतारिणी भवभामिनी जय जय सच्चित सुख माये शुद्धा ब्रह्म रूपा सत्य सनातन सुंदर पर शिव सुर भूपा तू ही सच्चित सुख माये शुद्धा ब्रह्म रूपा सत्य सनातन सुंदर पर शिव सुर भूपा जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय भयहारिणी भवतारिणी भवभामिनी जय जय आदि अनादि अनमय अविचल विनाशी अमल अनंत गोचर अज आनंद राशि अविकारी अगहारी अकल काले धारी करता विधि भारती हरि हर संघारकारी जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय भयहारिणी भवतारिणी भामिनी जय जय। प्राकृति विद्या तू जननी जाया, राम कृष्ण तू सीता, ब्रज रानी राधा, निज स्वभाव वश जननी, दया दृष्टि की जय। करुणा कर करुणामयी, शरण शरण दीजय। जग जननी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय। भयहारिणी भवतारिणी, भवभामिनी जय जय। जग जननी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय। भयहारिणी भवतारिणी, भवभामिनी जय जय। जग जननी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय। भयहारिणी भवतारिणी, भवभामिनी जय जय। ओम जग जननी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय। भयहारिणी भवतारिणी, भवभामिनी जय जय। हे पावन, हे पावन, हे पावन, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, मन ही मन शर्माओ, मैली चादर रख कैसे मैं करी न कोई जग की माया चोरी। श्री राम, श्री राम, श्री राम ने कमाई करी न कोई जग की माया जोरी। तोर के नाते इस दुनिया से तुम संग प्रीति जोरी। कर्म घतरिया सिर पर राखे, पग भी चलना पाओ, मैली चादर रख कैसे, मैली चादर रख कैसे। इन पैरों से चल कर तेरे मंदिर कभी न आया। गोविंदा जय गोपाला
भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला
भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला
भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला
भज मुरली मनोहर नंद लाला भज मुरली मनोहर नंद लाला भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला
भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला
भज मुरली 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 मनोहर नंद लाला भज मुरली मनोहर नंद लाला भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला जय नंद लाला 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 जय गोपाला भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला भज गोविंदा जय गोपाला जय जय गोपाला जय जय गोपाला जय जय गोपाला जीने के लिए है तूने महल सजाए मतलब के याद सारे सभी है पराए जिनके लिए है तूने महल सजाए मतलब के याद सारे सभी है पराए जिनके लिए है कितना जिन्हें दुख झेला 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला आए भी अकेला जाए भी अकेला 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला काहे तू आया जग में क्या तुझको करना नेकी करम कर ले दुनिया से डरना राम 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 सीता राम 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 सीता राम 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 काहे तू आया जग में क्या तुझको करना नेकी करम कर ले दुनिया से डरना पाप की अघन में खुद को काहे को धकेला 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला आए भी अकेला जाए भी अकेला 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला जिनके लिए है तूने महल सजाए, मतलब के यार सारे सभी है पराए। इनके लिए है कितना तूने दुख झेला, 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला। आए भी अकेला जाए भी अकेला, 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला। हरि की शरण तू हो जा, ध्यान लगा ले, जीवन मिले ना फिरे जीवन को पाले। हरे रामा हरे कृष्णा, हरे रामा हरे कृष्णा, हरे रामा हरे कृष्णा, हरे रामा हरे कृष्णा। हरि की शरण तू हो जा, ध्यान लगा ले, जीवन मिले ना फिरे जीवन को पाले। खेल जगत का सारा उसी ना है खेला, 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला। आए भी अकेला जाए भी अकेला, 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला। ये जिंदगी है प्यारे एक झूठ सपना, गैरों की दुनिया में नहीं कोई अपना। राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम, राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम। ये जिंदगी है प्यारे एक झूठ सपना, गैरों की दुनिया में नहीं कोई अपना। सबके रहते हुए मैं हूँ अकेला, 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला। आए भी अकेला जाए भी अकेला, 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला। 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला, 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला।
ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय,
नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय।
नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय।
नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय, नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय।
हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय।
वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। आदिपूज्यं गणाध्यक्षम् उमापुत्रं विनायकं मङ्गलं परमं रूपं श्रीगणेशं नमाम्यहम्। मङ्गलं परमं रूपं श्रीगणेशं नमाम्यहम्। शान्ताकारं भुजगशयनं पद्मनाभं सुरेशं विश्वाधारं गगनसदृशं मेघवर्णं शुभांगं लक्ष्मीकान्तं कमलनयनं योगिहृद्यानगम्यं वन्दे विष्णु भवभयहरं सर्वलोकैकनाथम्। कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु दयारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः।
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुर सुधारी वरनौ रघुवर विमल यश जो ध्यायक फलचारी बुद्धहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु क्लेश विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति संगी कंचन वरन विराज सुवेशा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिवे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिवे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाए संजीवन लखन जिलाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि पुर लाए रघुपति की बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिया भरतहि समभाई सहस भजन तुम्हारो यश गावे अश कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीषा नारद शारद सहित अहीशा यम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते कवि कोविद कह सकय कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीव कीन्हा राम मिलाय राज पद दीन्हा तुम्हारो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना युग सहस्र योजन पर भानु लीलो ताहि मधुर पद जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मुख माही जल दिलांग गए अचरज नाही दुर्गम काज जगत के देते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे देते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी शरणा तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपने तेज संहारो आपे तीनों लोक हाक के कापे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नाश है रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे, सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों युग प्रताप तुम्हारा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत रे तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारो भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चिन्ह धरहि, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करे। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई। जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूटई बंदी महासुख होई। जो यहाँ पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होए सिद्धि साखी गौरीशा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, की जय नाथ हृदय महादेरा। की जय नाथ हृदय महादेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय। श्री राम।
My dear sisters and brothers, Sitaram and Namaste to all of you. On behalf of my brother Suruj and our family, I want to say how grateful we are that all of you have joined us this evening. I want to just take a moment or two to explain why we are having these 3 satsangs during this important occasion of Pitri Paksh. In this village where we all grew up, many families have lost members during this pandemic. In fact, some families have lost more than one family member during COVID. And this is an occasion to remember them all, to remember those in our own families who have preceded us in death, but members of all of your families who are no longer here with us. We want to honor them all. We want to honor their memories, and we want to offer prayer for their well-being. The Hindu tradition reminds us that from the very moment of birth, we are indebted. It's a Sanskrit word called rina. Rina means debt. We are all indebted. To be a human being is to be indebted, because we cannot live without others. No one is self-made. We depend on others in so many ways for our own success, for our own well-being. So we are all indebted as human beings. This is what it means to be human. And in our tradition, 5 of these great debts are lifted up, are held up as prominent ones. We are indebted to the divine for the gift of life, for the blessings of life. And we have an obligation to God. We are indebted to our ancestors for all that we have received from their labors, their gifts. And so we have obligations to them, which I'll speak about. We are obligated to everyone from whom we have learned, our teachers, both formal teachers and informal teachers, teachers in primary schools, in high schools, in colleges, our spiritual teachers, but everyone from whom we have learned, all teachers. We have a special day in the Hindu calendar for acknowledging this, the Guru Purnima. We have obligations, we are indebted to the human beings, in all of their diverse roles, our physicians, our electricians, those who build and maintain our homes, those who collect our garbage. We are obligated to them. They make our lives possible. And finally, obligation to the natural world, air, water, space, the trees, the birds, the bees. Now in our world, bees are threatened. And if there are no bees, we have no food because there's no pollination. Just think about it. We have obligations to insects as well. So this fortnight that we meet here in this shrine is called Pitri Paksh. Pitri means the ancestors. So the ancestral fortnight. And this fortnight has 2 aspects to it. One is called Pitri Seva and the second is Pitri Shrad. Pitri Seva and Pitri Shrad are the 2 dimensions, 2 sides of this very important fortnight. Pitri Seva is fulfilled in daily life by serving the elders in our families and in our communities. Seva means to serve. By treating them with honor, treating them with reverence, treating them with respect, caring for them when they are unable to care for themselves, identifying their needs and helping to meet those needs. Pitri Seva emphasizes that we must honor in life and not only after death. We must honor them in life and not only after they have died. Pitri Seva is very fundamental to this Pitri Paksh period. And sometimes I think, that what a wonderful event we have in the Hindu calendar. And why don't we make this a period of national reflection? A period of national reflection. Reflecting on the needs of the elders in our communities. How are they faring? What are their special needs? And how are we meeting those needs nationally as a community? What are their challenges? Physical, emotional, economic, mental, and how do we serve them best? So Pitri Paksh can also be not simply something that we observe in our families, but perhaps we can lift up this period to say, let us think nationally. about the elders in the community. How best can we use their gifts, their talents, their abilities, and how best can we meet their needs? Get the entire nation to reflect during this period on the significance of elders in our community. So that's one dimension of the Pitri Paksh. The other, of course, as I said, is Pitri Srad. And this describes our obligations to our ancestors who are no longer with us physically. And it includes all of the rituals that we perform, all of the prayers that we recite for their well-being. So why do we speak of it as Pitri Shrad? So Shrad comes from Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. So it requires faith of two kinds. One is that those in our families, our ancestors who have died, continue to be, they live on. As I always say, in the Hindu tradition, the opposite of life is not death, but is continuing life. It's new life. So we have the faith that even when they are not with us physically, they continue to be. In this universe, nothing is destroyed. And that's a very basic fundamental law. Nothing is created, nothing is destroyed. So it's not unreasonable to understand or to affirm that those who are no longer with us physically continue to be. And therefore they can be the recipients of our thoughts, our words of prayer, and our rituals. Secondly, how do these rituals benefit them? The rituals that we perform during this Pitri Paksh period. Again, in our religious tradition, we believe, we teach that every action we perform must produce a result. You can't have an action without an outcome, without a result. If I, bring my hands together, I'll create a sound. I can't clap without producing a sound, without creating an effect. So every action that I perform must produce an effect. And the effect of the action is not only determined by what I do physically, but by what I do mentally as well, by my intent, my motivation also determines the outcome. So if I perform an action for a departed ancestor, and my intent, which is called in Sanskrit, every time we do a ritual, we have what is called the sankalpa. Sankalpa means the declaration of the intent. Why am I doing this? This is part of the ritual. You must have the sankalpa. I am doing this ritual for this purpose. So when we do Pitri Shrad, the sankalpa is for the departed ancestor. And if every action must create a result, then of course, whether that ancestor has taken rebirth, whether that ancestor lives in one of the many lokas that we describe in our Hindu tradition, the result, the action is performed for his or her benefit, and our Shraddha, our faith is that the result will be accomplished. We cannot have an action without an outcome. So these are the two dimensions of this particular period, this Pitri Paksh period that we observe. And as I said, to mark this special period in our Hindu calendar, we thought that we would gather every year for 3 evenings for religious reflection and for worship, dedicated to honor those in our families, those in our communities, those in our country who are no longer with us. So this is our first, the first of what we hope will be annual gathering, annual satsangs. So what am I going to do in these 3 nights? Here is my plan. So for each of these nights, I'm going to take one well-known song, one well-known and famous bhajan composed by one of the great composers of the Hindu tradition, and to reflect with you on this song and what it means and what its implications are for our lives. One of the most important and frequently asked questions in Hindu scriptures concerns the nature of the worshipper of God. Who is the devotee? How would you describe the person who is devoted to God? Or sometimes it is framed, who is the wise person? So if we speak of the devotee of God, we'll say, who is the bhakta? What are the qualities? What are the characteristics of someone who is devoted to God, the bhakta? Or in some texts, the question is framed as, who is the jnani? Who is the wise person? What are the qualities of someone who has religious wisdom? So for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, who is the student, he asks Sri Krishna this question. And he frames his question, or he asks his question about the wise person, one whose knowledge is firm. He wants to know, he says, Tita pragyasya ka bhasha. How does such a person talk? Tita pragyasya ka bhasha. Samadhistasya keshavas. Sthitadhi kim prabhasheta. Kim asita. How does the person sit? How does the person conduct himself or herself in the world? This is the question that Arjuna asked. And so Sri Krishna answers him in one important way. He says, Arjuna, it has nothing to do with how the person sits, how the person talks necessarily, or how the person walks. You know, a wise person doesn't only sit with legs folded, right? He or she can sit on a chair. But he says, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamano gatan. The characteristic of the wise person is freedom from greed. The heart is no longer filled with greed. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. When the heart is completely free from greed, then you know that wisdom is well established. So he answers Arjuna's question by pointing to freedom from greed and contentment. This is what he says. Freedom from greed and contentment are the marks, the characteristics of a wise person. So when a person is free from greed and finds the highest source of contentment in God, that person is considered to be what he calls sthita prajna, or a wise person. That's one question and one answer in one text, the Bhagavad Gita. In so many parts of the Ramayana, the same question is asked. Who is the devotee of God? What are the characters? What are the virtues of the devotee of God? And sometimes different words are used. So in Bhagavad Gita, it speaks a lot about the jnani. Ramayana speaks about the santa. Who is the santa? And in one of the discussions, this question is posed to Sri Ram. Who is the saint? Who is the Sant. So, in one part of the text, Sri Ram gives a very beautiful answer to this question. I've discussed before, so I wouldn't go into detail. He says, Santa asanta nakai asikarani, jimi kuthar chandana acharani, katai parasu malai sunobhai, nijagun dehi sugandha basai. He says, Arjuna, think of this example. This is the good person, the virtuous person, is like a sandal tree in relation to an axe. That the axe is used to cut the sandal tree, but the axe returns with the fragrance of the sandal tree that it cut. The sandal tree gives its fragrance to the axe that destroys it. In other words, a virtuous person does not return hate for hate. The axe gives its perfume. The tree gives its perfume to the axe that destroys it. A virtuous person returns love for hate, returns kind words for abuse. So this is how Sri Ram describes it. This question, who is the worshipper of God, is the focus of this song that I want to discuss with you this evening. It is one of the most famous songs in our tradition. It was the favorite, one of the favorite songs of Mahatma Gandhi. It was composed in the 15th century by a poet. He was a Gujarati poet. His name was Narsi Mehta. He sometimes called Narsi Bhagat. As I said, he lived in the 15th century. He was a devotee of Krishna, and his songs have endured for over 500 years. One of his favorite songs, you probably don't know, he's the composer, but he's also the composer of Darshana Do Ghanasham Anath More. For 500 years, that song has been on our lips. The composer is Narsi Mehta. And the song I want to speak about tonight was also written by Narsi Mehta. And he asks in this song, because he was a devotee of Krishna, who is avatar of Vishnu, Narsi Mehta was a Vaishnava. So he's writing from a Vaishnava perspective, but we can extend this and to think also of the devotee of Shiva, the Shaiva, or the devotee of Durga, the Shakta. So the song speaks to all. So this is how he begins this beautiful song that I want to discuss with you tonight. वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे So he opens his composition with a question, a very important question. Vaishnava janato tene kahiye. Kahiye. 500 years ago he asked this question. Who is the worshipper of Vishnu? How do I know? How do I recognize one who is devoted to God? And as I said, he says Vaishnava. Vaishnava is a worshipper of Vishnu. But let's say, Shaiva vajanato tene kahiye. We could substitute. Who is the worshipper of Shiva? Shakta vajanato tene kahiye. Who is the worshipper of Durga? What is it without which? He's asking himself. What is it without which someone is not a devotee of God? fundamental question. And I think Narasi Mehta gives one of the most important answers, not only in Hindu tradition, but to people of all religions. And what does he answer in the very first verse? So the first line is the question. Vaishnava janato tene kahiye. Who is the worshipper of God? Who is the true worshipper of God? And he answers, Pira parai janire. What he says is as important as what he doesn't say. Pira parai janire. Pira means pain, suffering. Jani, to know. Parai, the other. One who knows the suffering of another. Pira parai jani de. And forwards. One who knows the suffering of another. Pira parai jani de, Vaishnava janato tene kahiye. Now, the knowing, one who knows the pain of another, he says. The knowing, the knowledge that Narsi Mehta ji speaks about in this opening verse, these opening lines, is a particular kind of knowing. It is not indirect knowing, not remote knowing, not simply receiving information about another's suffering, another's pain. So each day, for example, we listen to the news and we hear of suffering. Sometimes in our own country, sometimes suffering abroad. Terrible suffering. And such information might have a momentary impact on us. And then the newscaster moves on to tell us the cricket scores or the outcome of a soccer game, and the suffering simply lasts as long as the broadcast lasts. So such information might have a momentary impact on us, but this is not the kind of knowing that Narasi Mehta is speaking here. We soon switch channels and we move on. We move on. The knowledge of suffering is momentary. The knowing about which Narasi Mehta sings here is deeper, is profound, is more significant. It is not simply a knowing of the mind, but I would say it's a knowing of the heart. That is what distinguishes. It's a knowing of the heart that he's speaking about. Pira parai jani de. It's more like when you say, I feel your pain, rather than that I know your pain. I feel your pain. The heart is rich. So it's a quality of the heart that enables us to identify deeply with another. It is the ability to see and to imagine yourself in the place of the other. That's how you identify with another's pain, when you place yourself, put yourself in the place of the other. In English, we speak of compassion. Narasi Mehta is talking about compassion. Compassion means to suffer with. Kam means with. Passion, suffering. To suffer with is compassion. In Sanskrit, we have many words for compassion. We have anukampa is used for suffering. Anukampa. Kapi means moving. Anukampa is the movement of the heart. It's a very beautiful term for compassion. Anukampa. The heart moves. The movement of the heart is called anukampa. And then we have karuna. It's another Sanskrit word for suffering. Karuna, which means to place one's heart in another. To place one's heart in another, to identify, to unite with another. Karuna means to unite with another, to become one with another. And the third word we have for compassion is daya. Daya. So you have anukampa, which means the movement of the heart. We have karuna, which is to unite in heart with the other. And then we have daya. Daya comes from, is a root of dhanam, also daya, the same word da, daya means to give yourself to another. To give oneself to another is called daya in Sanskrit. So all of these meanings are complementary to each other. But what I'm trying to say is that when Narasi Mehta says, Vaishnava janato tene kahiya pira parai jani re, I'm trying to make the point that the knowing that he speaks about is a deep identification with another. It's not just a passing, a passing momentary state of mind, but a deep knowing. And he says here, for him, this opening of the heart to others in daya, compassion, is the mark of what it means to be religious. Vaishnava janato tene ke. This is what it means to be religious. That he is speaking about a very special way of knowing comes in the third line. So see how the song is beautifully structured. When you hear the song again, you will pause and listen carefully. Vaishnava janato tene kahiye. It's a question. Who is the worshipper of God? Who is the devotee of God? Pira parai janide. The one who has grown, who has developed the capacity of heart to know the suffering of another, intensely to know. Then the third line, para dukhe upkar kare. So para dukhe upkar kare. So para means the others, dukha. Para dukhe upkar kare. And the devotee does not simply stop with experiencing compassion for the other, but will now engage in some action. Para dukhe upkar. Upkar kare. So that, in other words, the daya or the compassion is active. It is not just a state of the heart, but it now finds expression in some appropriate way of acting to remove suffering, to overcome suffering. Para dukhe upkar kare. Para dukha upkar. Upakar means to serve or to help, to assist. Para dukhe upkar kare, mana abhiman na anare. Fourth line. See how beautifully he writes. Would now engage in some action for the removal of suffering, mana abhiman na anare, without any desire for reward. Mana abhiman na anare. You do it because of compassion, because of concern for the overcoming of suffering, without any expectation to be rewarded for it. Either on the road, either materially, to benefit materially, or even to be praised psychologically, to be praised by others. You do it because it's the right thing to do. This is what a devotee of God does. Because the heart is it's a loving heart. It's a heart of love. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna talks about what is right giving. And he says, Datavyam iti yat danam diyate anupakarine. That which is given to another, anupakarine, without expectation of receiving in return. Anupakarine. Datavyam iti yat danam diyate anupakarine, without expectation of receiving back. It is done out of the love of the other. Deshe, given in the right place. Kale, at the right time. Patre, to a person who is deserving. Yad danam satvikam smritam is the highest way of giving. Vaishnava janato tene kahiye pira parai jani re para upkar kare mana abhimana ana re. Four beautiful lines. So, from this first verse alone, if you ask me, as I said, he says, he's asking who is a Vaishnava. And I say you can ask who is a Shaiva, who is a Shakta. But for me, if you ask who is a Hindu, I would say a Hindu is a person who is concerned about suffering in this world, who cares about the suffering of others. That would be the most important characteristic of what it means to be Hindu, to care about the suffering of others, and to be at the forefront of actions for the removal of suffering. That is what we should aspire to become. And look, I can't put it more clearly. If our worship, whatever we do, if our rituals that we perform now all during the year do not open our hearts in compassion for others, they are failing. That's the fruit. You know that you are growing closer to God when the suffering of another moves you. When your heart begins to open in compassion when others suffer. And that has to be what it means fundamentally to be Hindu. To be Hindu is to be a person who cares about the suffering of another, who cannot be indifferent to another's suffering. On the basis of this teaching that I am discussing from this first verse of Narasimha Mehta's song has about 5 verses. And I would take about 5 lectures to talk about each. 5 lectures to deal with each but that's how I teach. Or else I end up just translating the song for you, which is not teaching. But on the basis of this fundamental teaching, one of Hinduism's most successful and most important modern movements was founded. I just want to say something about it. You must have heard of the Ramakrishna Mission, founded by Swami Vivekananda at the end of the 19th century. And when this happened, Vivekananda was with his guru. His guru was Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was his guru. He was a priest in the Kali temple in Dakshineshwar in Calcutta. And one day they were in satsang, Vivekananda in the company of his guru, and they were discussing compassion, daya, what it meant. And this what I am saying to you is what Vivekananda wrote about this experience that he had with his guru. So suddenly Sri Ramakrishna went quiet, went into deep thought. And then he said to him that we should not speak of compassion. That's not the right word, he said. It is not compassion to living beings, compassion to jivas, but he says it is seva. And I had this phrase, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. It is not compassion for others, but we should see it as seva, because in each one we see God. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. We should act to remove the suffering of another, because in the other we see the divine. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. That the root of seva is knowing Shiva. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. He wanted, in other words, Ramakrishna wanted his students, in particular Vivekananda, to understand that work for the overcoming of suffering is a privilege. And this is where the abhiman that Narasi Mehta talks about is eradicated. It's a privilege that you have. You don't do it with arrogance, but it's a privilege and honor that must be exercised in humility as an act of worship. This is seva. So, seva is not charity. Charity is different from seva. In seva, there can be no abhiman. That's what distinguishes seva. Seva can't be done with arrogance. Seva is a great opportunity. So Vivekananda, this went very deep into Swami Vivekananda. Of all of the disciples, it went very deep into him. And on that day, he vowed that this is the truth that he will teach. And this is the movement that he will found on this principle. And so when he founded the Ramakrishna Mission, he coined a very beautiful motto. Atmano mokshartam jagat hitayacha. For the first time, a monastic institution was founded in Hinduism with this motto. Atmano mokshartam, for one's own well-being, but jagat hitayacha, for the well-being of the universe. That you join this mission to grow, but also to serve. Jagat hitayacha. That's the motto, coined by Swami Vivekananda itself. And he never used the word compassion, but the word seva from his guru. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. So there is a very beautiful logic in Narasi Mehta's words in the first verse of this bhajan. As I said, Pira parai janire, para dukhe upkar kare. To be able to feel the pain of another is an important step in developing compassion. But compassion fulfills and realizes itself in action, in the removal of suffering. So it must have an active dimension. So what can we learn from this first verse already? For Narasimha Mehta, to be a devotee of God, to be awake to God, doesn't mean turning away from the world. Doesn't mean indifference to the world, running away from the world and from other living beings. It doesn't mean indifference or uncaring attitudes to others. Religion does not mean building an unemotional wall around oneself. Many think that in order to be closer to God, you have to be further away from human beings. But Narasimha Mehta, like Swami Vivekananda, had a very different understanding that at the heart of what it means to be religious is to care for one's community, especially for those who suffer in that community. So there is an inward dimension and there is an outward dimension. Compassion must find expression outward. The transformation of the heart must find expression in action. So I know that many who are listening to our discussion here come from other religious traditions. I know some of my friends who are Christians are joining the discussion, the satsang tonight, and some who come from the Buddhist tradition also told me that they will be joining. And what I wanted to say is that I think this first verse, this very crisp and beautiful way in which Narasimha Mehta describes the heart of what it means to be religious. The heart, the core, the non-issue, the non-negotiable dimension of what it means to be religious speaks across religious traditions. It would be interesting to have this discussion. Here's what Narasimha Mehta says, that the essence of being religious is to know the pain of another and to act, to remove the suffering of another. There is an incident in the life of the Buddha, and on one occasion, in the company of his disciples, he would usually travel. He was on the move all the time, and he went where his disciples lived, and among them was one who was very sick. He entered the room where this disciple was very sick. He was not only sick, but he was uncared for. He was in a very pitiable state. His fellow monks were not taking care of him. And he asked, why are they not taking care of you? And he said, because I don't care also for them. So the Buddha went and with his own hands, he washed his disciple's body and applied medicine to what we would call today bed sores, to his bed sores, and cleaned and applied ointment to his disciple. And then he gathered all of them. He gathered his monks and had a discussion with them. the one sentence that I wanted to lift up from that discussion is what the Buddha said at the end of the discussion, that whoever cares for the suffering among you cares for me. In other words, if you care for me, care for each. Express that in care for each other. See me in each other and care for each other as you would care for me. Very much as Narsi Mehta says, know the suffering of the other and act to remove. And for my Christian friends who are listening, I connect Narsi Mehta's opening verse with one of the most profound teachings of Jesus. And he gave them a parable. And in this parable he said that when you are judged, it will be like the righteous will be separated from the unrighteous on this day of judgment. And what will God say? He said, God will say to the righteous, come, here is your blessing. Here is what I have prepared for you. Why? When I was hungry, you fed me. And when I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And when I came as a stranger in need, you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you visited me. So when he said that, they were all puzzled and asked, but you were not sick. We never looked after you when you were sick. We never gave clothes to you. You never came to us hungry, and we never fed you. And then he said, whatever you did or whatever you do for the least among, you've done it for me. You've done it for me. Because they were puzzled. We never did all of these things. What do you mean? So what you've done for the others in need, you have done for me. Every day the world overwhelms us with suffering. And sometimes I know we wonder, what difference can we make? Can we make a difference? Can we change suffering? And I always remember the story that I tell often about the old man and the starfish on the beach. So the waves, this old man was standing on the beach and the waves were washing thousands and thousands of starfish. And this old man would bend down and he'd pick up one starfish and he'd throw it back into the water. And hundreds will follow. Then the young man came to him and said, old man, why are you wasting your time? So many of them are continuously being washed up. How many of them you can save? And so he picked up another starfish and threw it into the sea and said, but I saved this one. I saved this one. No one can remove all of the suffering of the world, but we can make a difference. Sometimes that difference is made just by a very kind word to someone who is in suffering. Sometimes it's just by taking a meal to someone who is ill. It doesn't remove the suffering of the world, but you lift suffering in one place for one person in one time. And that's what it means to be a devotee of God, to look for opportunities to alleviate suffering. This is where Narsi Mehta focuses. That's the first verse. Second verse. So I'll conclude. I just want to speak about the first two words of this verse. Samadrishti. Samadrishti ne trishna tyagi parasrijene matare jihwa thaki asatya na bole paradhana navajhali hatare. So we've seen the first verse. Second verse he begins Samadrishti. Samadrishti. So the knower of God possesses what he calls Samadrishti. Drishti means, drishti comes from drish, to see. So drishti means seeing. Sama means equally. Samadrishti means to see equally. To see equally. Means to see all equally. The devotee of God sees human beings with equal eyes. Does not divide human beings into groups of greater worth and groups of lesser worth. Groups who I treat respectfully and groups who for one or any other reason I treat disrespectfully. Maybe because of economic reasons, reasons of social status, ethnicity, race, whatever you have, think about it. All of the reasons that we find for not treating human beings equally. But he says, Samadrishti. The devotee of God does not arrange human beings into categories of greater and lesser worth, but sees every human being having equal dignity, having equal value. This word samam, is very important. It occurs so many times in Bhagavad Gita. Samam means equality, seeing equally. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram in Bhagavad Gita. Samam sarveshu. Equality of seeing comes from what I said before. Knowing and seeing God present equally in all beings. When one sees God present equally in all beings, one regards all equally. The opposite of samadrishti is asamadrishti. Seeing human beings unequally and treating people unequally. So again, if you ask me who is a Hindu, I would say someone who cares about suffering in the world and removes suffering. Secondly, I would say one who sees everyone equally. One who sees human beings equally. Does not distinguish on any basis. So how do we see? As I said, sama asama. Is our asama drishti because of race? Do we treat people unequally because of race? Because of gender? Because of economic value? Economic worth? Because of nationality sometimes, or religion sometimes. I regard people of some religions having higher value than others. Samadrishti means no. Means equality of vision, seeing human beings as having the same dignity, the same value. So Samadrishti, he begins the second verse of the song by identifying this as a principal value. Samadrishti ne Trishna Tyagi. And he comes also and says, Samadrishti is possible when one frees oneself from greed. There is a relationship between treating people unequally and greed. So that's why seeing equally means also to be free from greed. And it goes on in that verse. There's so much to speak about. We have a deep problem here in Trinidad and perhaps across the world with domestic violence. And here he speaks about respect for women. Parasri Jene Matare. Developing a deep reverence for women that does not allow violence. Creating a society in which women are treated. I mean, here he's writing, of course, for his male devotee. He says, you better treat women with respect, with reverence, with regard. Do not be violent to them. You're not a devotee of God if you ill-treat women and you dishonor or disrespect them. So I will stop here with this. Basically, I wanted to focus on the first verse of Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye. Tomorrow I will take up another song, hopefully, because I made some preliminary comments on Pitri Paksha. I wanted to set the context for our satsang. I focus on the first verse. Hopefully I'll cover more of the second song that I want to discuss with you tomorrow. But thank you for joining us, and all of those who have joined us online. We're grateful for your presence and participation. And now we will close it. Bhajans.
चुन पाया जो फूल चढ़ाने हैं तुझ पर। दूसरों का दुखरा दूर करने वाले तेरे दुख दूर करेंगे राम। ये जदु जग में भलाई का काम तेरे दुख दूर करेंगे राम। दूसरों का दुखरा दूर करने वाले तेरे दुख दूर करेंगे राम। ये जदु जग में भलाई का काम तेरे दुख दूर करेंगे राम। I sang Dusaro Ka Dukhara because it was in line with the meaning of what he was singing in Vaishnava Janato. The Lord directly responds to remove the pains of those who relieve the pains of others. That was the meaning of that song. So I've asked Anand to sing the entire Vaishnava Janato. समदृष्टि ने तृष्णा त्यागी पर सृजे ने मात रे पर समदृष्टि ने तृष्णा त्यागी पर सृजे ने मात रे जिह्वा थकिया सत्य न बोले जिह्वा थकिया सत्य न बोले पर धन नव झाली हाथ रे वैष्णव जन तो इने कहिए पीर पराई जानी रे वैष्णव जन तो सकल लोक मां सहुने वंदे निंदा न करे के नीरे सकल लोक मां सहुने वंदे निंदा न करे के नीरे वाच काच मन निश्चल राखे वाच काच मन निश्चल राखे धन धन जननी तेनी रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए पीर पराई जाने वैष्णव जन तो मोह माया व्यापी नहीं जेने दृढ़ वैराग्य जेना मन मारे मोह माया व्यापी नहीं जेने दृढ़ वैराग्य जेना मन मारे राम नाम सुन ताली लागी राम नाम सुन ताली लागी सकल तीर्थ तेना तन मारे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीर पराई जाने वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए पीर पराई जाने रे वैष्णव जन तो And so we are now close with devotion to Hanuman, Hanuman Arti, recognizing that the Hanuman is the family deity. You know, the name of the temple is Kula Devalai, the place of the family deity. And Hanuman is the family deity of this whole village. Everyone here worships Hanuman. But in particular, he is also our family deity. So we placed him here as the family deity. So let us stand and sing and praise him. दुष्ट दलना रघुनाथ कला की दुष्ट दलना रघुनाथ कला की आरती की जय हनुमान लला की लक्ष्मण मूर्छित परे सखारे, आन संजीवन प्राण उबारे। पैठी पताल तोरी जमकारे, अहि रावण की भुजा उखारे। बाए भुजा असुर दल मारे, दाहिनी भुजा संत जन तारे। आरती की जय हनुमान लला की, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की। If any one of you like to come and perform arati, please feel free to come. Sura nar muni आरती उतारे, आरती उतारे प्रभु आरती उतारे। सुर नर बलवाना राम नाम सियारे, हे प्रभु मन बसियारे। वीरा हनुमाना अति बलवाना राम नाम सियारे, हे प्रभु मन बसियारे। राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की, राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की। राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की, राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की। वीरा हनुमाना अति बलवाना राम नाम सियारे, हे प्रभु मन बसियारे। सीताराम जय सीताराम, 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 सीताराम जय राधेश्याम, सीताराम जय सीताराम, सीताराम जय राधेश्याम। वीरा हनुमाना अति बलवाना राम राम रसियारे, हे प्रभु मन बसियारे, प्रभु मन बसियारे। हे प्रभु मन बसियारे, हे प्रभु मन बसियारे।
ॐ कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतेर्स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव, त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव, त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देवा। ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरि ओम्। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीर पराई जाने रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीर पराई जाने रे। पर दुखे उपकार करे तो ये, पर दुखे उपकार करे तो ये।
Springland Gardens, quality homes for a lifetime of happiness. Situated 15 minutes from Gulf City Mall at Toby Trace in Avocat. Our homes start at $1.8 million with duplexes from $1.75 million. Our homes are outfitted with a fully equipped kitchen, 3 ensuite bedrooms with walk-in closets, powder room, sophisticated lighting, air conditioner, security cameras, burglar proofing, electronic gate garages, study, and utility room. Residents have access to a recreational pond, play park, and an artificial turf football field. Call 792-1155 to arrange your visit today. Visit our Facebook page, Springland Gardens, for more information.
Sankhya Television is not only the first Hindu TV station